Okay, redo. Sorry for people who were watching and Gina wasn't sure if we had this on the right page or we were on Mary Frances's personal page. So anyway, we were all good. So start over. I just said that I wanted to taste some great, as promised, some great red wines. This is the Vincent Red Blend from Columbia Valley, Washington. I know a lot of you love heavier bodied reds, Cabernet, Merlot, just heavier bodied reds, and I am always drinking white wine and sparkling wine. Just my go-tos, my preferred wines are it's just what I drink. But I love Cabernet. I love good Cabernet. I love heavier reds in the right moment or with the right food. And I don't want to not taste these just because of my own preferences. It's still fun to share these reds with you, these heavier reds with you. So we're going to taste a red blend. We're open for dinner, so I might have some people come in. We'll see. But we're just going to quickly taste through this wine, talk about Washington wine. I hardly ever I love, there's some delicious, amazing domestic wines out there. I just am always drinking imports, a lot of French and Italian wines, because I love those wines and they're just kind of my personal preference. But there are some domestic wines that I love that I'm going to share with you. I have a couple actually planned for the next week or so of some domestic red producers that I love. I just feel like there's a lot of value in European wine. I'm always telling people you get a lot for your money for European wines. My house wines are European. They're $13 a bottle, and they're absolutely delicious wines, and they're not expensive at all. And it's really hard to find that same value in domestic wines. It's hard to find domestic wines that are an insane deal like that. Just because Europe, they've been doing it for centuries, they have the infrastructure, they have the land, they have the vineyards, they have the equipment, and it's just a less expensive endeavor in Europe right now than it is in the US. And so you see great wines from the US, but they're a little bit more expensive. So this wine that we're tasting today is $22 retail, which actually is a great deal for a very good domestic wine. And I need to look up the blend info on this wine really quickly because I didn't do my due diligence before we started here, so bear with me. So this is called the Vincent Red. It's a Mark Ryan wine. Mark Ryan does a lot of really great higher-end Cabernets out of Washington State and a whole range of wines and a lot of different price points. So this is kind of a mid-level price point. I used to have the Ghost of 413 Cab that was absolutely delicious, but they're not making it anymore, and that was about $17 retail. So we need to find another really great Cab. Washington is a great place to find great Cabernet, great Merlot from, Syrah from. So let me know if you at home are exploring any of those wonderful Washington wines and what you're drinking from Washington. I would love to know that. So, okay, I'm pretty sure this is a Cab Syrah blend. Just looking up the info right now on my phone. Okay, 65% Cabernet, 25% Merlot, and 10% Malbec. Okay, I stand corrected. Cabernet, Merlot, and a little bit of Malbec. So Columbia Valley is the region on this. Most of the Washington wines that you guys will see out there are going to be from the Columbia Valley. Huge region, taking up a lot of Washington State. I drew another wonderful map for you guys. How is that? How's that centered there, Gino? See that? Okay, so we got Washington State. You've got Seattle over on the far west, Puget, by the Puget Sound there. And that's a really rainy climate over there, right? So that's not great for growing grapes there. So when you see wines from Washington, most of them are from the eastern and central part of the state, which is very arid, which is good for growing grapes. Grapes like a drier climate. Not that they can't be grown in more humid climates, but you need to use fungicides and things like that because grapes are very susceptible to powdery mildew. Anyway, so you see Columbia Valley is this whole area I have outlined in red. So it's a huge area, and then within that area you have a lot of smaller AVAs that you might see more expensive wines from, like you have Walla Walla, you have Horse Heaven Hills, you have a bunch of different more specific AVAs. In America they're called AVAs, American Viticultural Areas is the term And these are things that are designated, like it's an official designation for an area that has a unique growing climate for grapevines, American viticultural areas. So those do mean something when you see them on the label. You can look them up. Like I said, I love the Wine Bible from Karen McNeil, but you can look up those AVAs and really see what makes those areas special for wine growing. So this one's the Columbia Valley, which is a very large region. Another thing is a lot of times AVAs and even areas, growing regions, AOCs in France and other places, a lot of times there are bodies of water that influence the climate that are unique to those particular wine growing regions. So, we were talking about the Rhone Valley, and I forgot to mention the other day when we were talking about Côte du Rhône, the Rhone River is what makes that an area that's an AOC. In the Loire Valley, that's a river valley that creates a unique climate for wine. So anyways, you've got the Snake Rivers and Columbia Rivers. Columbia River is a huge river if you've ever driven that way, which I have several times. It's insanely huge. I've never seen a river that huge. It's insane. So obviously affects the climate a lot there. And anyway, so that just gives you an idea of what we're talking about. So this is probably a blend from vineyards all throughout the Columbia Valley. Again, sorry, I didn't really do my due diligence there, but let's get into this. Let's smell this. Let's taste this. Cabernet, Merlot, Malbec. Those are all Bordeaux varieties. So when people talk about Bordeaux blends, very specifically, we are talking about Cabernet, Merlot, Malbec, Cabernet Franc, and Petit Verdot. So those are the blending grapes used in Bordeaux in France. And when people say Bordeaux blend, that's what they're talking about. Usually, a lot of times we're talking about California or Washington or Oregon when we're using that term Bordeaux blend for domestic wines that are made from the same varieties that they use in Bordeaux, France for their wines. So Bordeaux blend, we can say that about this. Very, very dark color, as often you see with Cabernet and Merlot and Malbec. Super, super blackberry fruit, which you get with Cabernet, a lot of times domestic Cabernet. Black fruit, some oak characters on the nose. Really pretty nose right off the bat. Just opened this. It hasn't been open for a little while or anything, so super fresh. Lots of jammy fruit. Like super insane jammy fruit. By the way, Merlot is amazing from Washington State. There are some beautiful Merlots from Washington State. I know Merlot has gotten a bad rap, in the last 10, 15 years, but there's some gorgeous Merlots from Washington State. So if you see those out there, they're really beautiful. I would almost say I enjoy them more than maybe Cabernet from Washington State, but give them a try. I've also had some really beautiful Malbecs from Washington State that I've loved. 100% Malbecs from Washington State that are really pretty. Now I'm starting to get a little bit more of that very distinctive note that Cabernet has. It's from a compound. They're called pyrazines. Basically the same compound that you have in your peppers, your green pepper. Getting a little bit of that now, a ripe kind of pepper character. Let's try this. Yum. Way less fruit on the palate, I would say, than on the nose. The nose is super, super jammy. I get a little bit more of those peppery characters. Very clean, very, very dry. Not too tannic. This is great. I had the distributor, Annie, who I love, who sells this wine, was telling me she was getting really good feedback on it. And I said, I really need a good Cabernet. So she recommended this. Like I said, it's a great price point at $22. I'm going to pour it tonight. So the Vincent by Mark Ryan. This is a series of wines that he, these are all like motorcycle names, I guess. I don't know anything about motorcycles. Gino, do you know about motorcycles? Is the Vincent? The Vincent is a motorcycle?
The classic English motorcycle.
Okay, classic English motorcycle. There you go. And then he has one called the Chief. That's another motorcycle.
That's a classic American motorcycle.
That's a classic American motorcycle. So anyway, he's got this little series of wines that he's named after motorcycles. That's a cool idea. So this one's the Vincent. This is a 2016 Columbia Valley Cab Merlot blend. Absolutely delicious. Merlots and Cabs from Washington, I find, have a really nice, soft, supple character on the finish that makes them very drinkable young. Of course, this wine, Cabernets, Merlot, you can age them. You can always age these wines. You want the wine to be of good quality before you go laying it down for 5 or 10 years. But of course, this wine would be beautiful in 5, 10, even 15 years. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit more of those chalky tannins that you find often in Cabernet. But a really pretty great wine and a great deal. I would recommend this. Heavier, definitely a much heavier bodied wine. If you like Cabernet, you would like this. Dry, but lots of fruit. It's great. It's a very well-made wine. I would recommend it. I'm going to be pouring it tonight if you'd like it. If you'd like to come in and try it and you're around. As always, we'll do 10% off wine of the day for the next 24 hours. Send us a message on Facebook or give us a call, 406-319-2080. And that's it for today, you guys. Wine of the day, Washington wine. Many, many delicious wines from Washington State that I hope to taste with you in the future. And hopefully this gives you a little insight into what the Columbia Valley is in Washington State. And we actually here in Montana are not far at all from the Columbia Valley of Washington. So those are kind of, when people are looking for fine wine, I a lot of times tell them Washington State is kind of our local wine region. And Columbia Valley is pretty close by. Mary Frances wanted to do a video today, but she is busy getting ready for our Valentine's dinner tomorrow night that we still have room for if you're interested. She's making boeuf bourguignon and pork tenderloin and other amazing, delicious things. So come by and see us. I hope you guys are enjoying Wine of the Day. Please let me know if you have any wine questions that I can answer. And go out, try the Vincent 2016 red or another vintage and let me know what you think of it. I would love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for joining me again, and we'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.